This meeting to order. We are here to discuss, potentially take action for the Silver Valley Road Blight. Britney Jacobs is here with us to fill us in on where we are as a county with this wonderful situation.
Yes. So this, of course, is in an area where many people drive by. You can see it from the freeway, certain parts of it. It has been a topic of discussion of many people, both on social media as well as in our office and with the former commissioners. So we had set out to take action in a way that we thought might bring a little more solace to the community. So there's two different aspects that we can take for a blight. One of them is criminal in nature. It's usually faster because we can get an officer out to assess the property, give them a notice. They don't clean it up in 10 days and they come back and we can draft a complaint. But that usually doesn't give us the end result. So we can really only threaten jail time and fines with that. And they're usually pretty minimal under the county code. Some people are motivated by facing jail time. A lot of people that engage in blight, their lifestyles sometimes lend them towards criminal activity, so they're not as concerned about jail time or fines. So there's another avenue that we can take that is within our county code, in which we can file a civil complaint. And what that allows us to do is have the court tell that individual, you've been told to clean it up, you have not done so, it is now a public nuisance, you need to clean it up within a reasonable amount of time. And if they do not, then our county can move in and clean it up themselves and then assess the cost to them through the court system itself. It does come within that judgment. So where we are currently at is that complaint has been filed. It was served on the individuals.
It's civil, you mean?
Yep, the civil. Yep. So
that's what
the commissioners did decide to go civil with it.
Okay.
Because of course it gets us the end result. And I think that these individuals would be particularly motivated by criminal penalties.
Right.
So we did go the civil route. The complaint has been filed. It has been served on the individuals. It looks like it was served on December 31st. So,
22, right?
Oh, 22, yep.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So they had 21 days to respond to the complaint if they wish to contest it. They have not done so. So at this point we can file a default judgment, which gives us the opportunity to have the court tell them you need to clean this up within a reasonable amount of time, otherwise the county has the ability to move in. Where I need you guys to make the decision is if we still want to pursue that. So I know that there has been some movement in their cleanup. Whether or not it's where we want to see it, I don't know. I haven't driven by the property in a while. But if it is still something that we would like to pursue, happy to do that. We can get the default judgment entered. And then it usually tells the court a reason. The paperwork says a reasonable amount of time. Usually we wait 20, 30 days, and then we submit another document that says we waited the reasonable amount of time, we can move in. So we have an actual court order that says we're good to enter into this property and clean it up. So two parts to that. One is if you guys would like to pursue it, and we can file the default documents. Second is if yes to the first question, who we would implement or have conduct the cleanup. Sometimes we've done a contractor, sometimes the roads division can do that, but they of course usually need a lot of advance notice. But that's something to discuss as well as to who it would be.
So if we go through this process and we have to clean up and they'll be charged the fees for the cleanup, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they don't pay those fees, do we put a lien on their property?
Oh, knew you were gonna ask me this, and I should have looked up before. So I know that
Well, how are
there's-
we gonna get paid
Right,
for?
so, I know that through the court system, we can assess the fees, in a judgment. I know that there are certain counties and cities that will allow us to apply it to the taxable. Whether Shoshone County allows us to, I don't remember.
I think we used to.
Yeah, I'd like to know that, because
Find it.
they're gonna say, go ahead, clean it up for me, and then you guys paid, you know, I'm not paying my
Yeah, so it
fees,
is
so what are you
simply
gonna
a
do?
civil judgment that we can get against them. Some other measures we can do, of course, like through that, our county has their own ability to send it to collections and things like that through the,
Can they do that through the court? Can you ask the court to put a lien on their property? Is that out of the question,
If they do not pay their fees for the,
or automatically?
I don't know that this would be a type of case that we could do that on. That would have to probably be a separate action to
Okay.
collect those fees, but now my
Okay.
computer, my Wi-Fi isn't working, so I can't look at the county code. Let's see. I will have to look into that. But I know that either through a judgment or applying it to the tax roll, or just through our normal court process where people aren't paying on their fines and fees, then it gets sent to collections through Anne Marie does that. That is something that can be parsed out to get the money collected.
Has there been
It's just-
anybody that went out there and talked to him about it, or you just been through the paper?
Yeah, so there was a deputy assigned to it.
Okay.
So technically, the commissioners had gone two routes. They had sent in a complaint to Shoshone County Sheriff's Department. There was an officer assigned to it, and it was they went out there and talked to them, and asked them to clean it up, gave them a notice, and I think went out there a second time and had told them that they weren't pursuing the case currently, and then they came into the civil case and said, I thought this was never gonna come to court, and it caused a lot of confusion. So I've told the sheriff's department to not pursue it, because it just creates confusion when we're doing both routes at the same time.
So they didn't.
So they
get
have
any-
been talked to personally, and then they did come to court. They came to the first default hearing. So what had happened was, there was a name that was incorrect in our first complaint, and so we moved to amend the complaint, and so that hearing was set. He did show up to the hearing and indicated that they were working on it, that an officer had told them that they weren't going to pursue any criminal charges. So he's well aware of this action, and has stated that he feels like he's making progress on it. Whether or not it's
Did
his
anyone-
idea of progress and our idea of
Yeah.
progress are somewhat distant.
do you know if anyone took photos so we could see what difference there's been?
Not to my knowledge, no. No, but we certainly can have the same deputy return to the property, and
What makes it a blight? The number of vehicles,
not specifically. The county code is very broad in that it is anything that is injurious to the health or safety of the community. Usually it's when a property has become so dilapidated that it affects property values. There are specific codes for unused and inoperable vehicles that are not registered. Specific number of vehicles isn't necessarily mentioned. What is
doesn't a certain number require a wrecking yard permit? Do you remember a certain number of unregistered?
Yeah, and so that's in, of course, a separate section of our code. So that would be under a wrecking yard if you want to have inoperable vehicles. But I think technically you could consider one inoperable, unregistered vehicle on your property a blight. Just because our code is so broad. Usually it's kind of one of those things that, I know it when I see it. and that's kind of how it's been with our blights in the past, is that it's the properties that are, you can point out as you're driving by them. This one specifically had not only vehicles, but a mobile home that looked like it was falling over,
I think
And
it's
wood
finished
all
falling
over the
over.
place. Yeah, the planning and zoning was concerned that there was people living in that motor home type thing.
Some concern about whether there's septic or not.
Yeah, so those sort of issues usually go to Panhandle Health. But as far as basically debris, unkept vegetation are our main ones. So it's usually cars, random debris, and unkept vegetation. Those are the typical ones that come to us. Of course, there's some specifics for things like freezers and refrigerators that are out and unlocked. You don't see those as often, but we do come across them sometimes.
Okay.
So,
I know it needs cleaned up and we need to get on it, but I just wanna make sure they're held accountable for any fees that are required if it's put on us, our taxpayers.
yeah, I think either through the court system assessing those fees and whether or not they pay them through the court system or they're collected through collections or assessed to the tax roll. I will get that information, because I deal with these in different cities and counties that we represent, and it's different in every single one. And if I could pull up our code, I could look at it, but
I
my
think a
internet
lien
decided to stop working.
Lien, on the property would be more of an incentive for them to pay their,
Well, 30 years ago,
Yeah.
I thought we were able to put it on the tax roll.
I want to say that we can put it on the tax roll from this county, but I
That-
just
that's
don't
how-
know for sure.
Okay.
Worked in the past.
Yeah.
So. But no internet, so.
Yeah, I know, it's really killing me.
Yes.
Well, I'm still attached to ours upstairs, and so it's really struggling to keep that Wi-Fi signal. But I don't know, it might get me there. We'll see. It's trying.
so you're needing a decision whether to move forward on the defaults.
Yes. On the default, there's some photos of prior, but I don't know if they're not great photos. And I don't know that those are, or how permanent those are. But what we normally do, oh, look at that, I do have a copy of it.
It's much worse than that.
Yeah, you can't.
I drive by
okay.
it on a regular basis.
You can't see much on those anyway.
Of course, there's no leaves right now, so.
Oh, this one does allow for a lien against the property.
Okay.
So, there we go. Look at that. I had it in my file. I didn't know.
And who needs
It's been
the
a while
internet?
since it's been a while since I've looked at this file, because it was, we were doing it and then we weren't, and then we were doing criminal and then we weren't. So
So it's an automatic lien?
Yeah.
Okay,
we
so
can assess a lien to the property.
So if we go with the filing the default, then that would open up the schedule for what, another 20 days or something of cleanup and.
Yeah. It again, it's pretty broad. It just states a reasonable amount of time. I mean, we could probably, because we've given them so much time, probably give them 2-3 weeks. And then what I would have an officer do at that point, normally we would have another individual go back out to the property and say, we've given them a reasonable amount of time, this is what the property still looks like. We want the authority from the court to move in.
Okay.
And so I would probably send an officer out in the next 2
Should we have him video for documentation of what it looked like?
They'll usually take photos, and then they'll
Okay.
provide us an affidavit saying, I took these photos on this date, this is what I saw. Yeah.
Okay.
And then we submit that with our request from the court to enter into the property.
Okay.
Yeah. So, if you guys want us to move forward, I will get working on the default documents, and then I'll task you guys with making some decisions on who you would like to do it, and what kind of time frame you'd like us to, provide and send our officers out at the end of. Of course, if you're gonna do road department and they're like, sorry, we can't do it for 2 months, then we'll probably hold off until at least 2 months.
Yeah, we may be looking at a contractor.
I know the city of Smelterville has done this recently, so they may have a suggestion on whoever they used.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that they just did it a few months ago.
Hmm.
So,
Okay, well, I know the clerk there, I'll ask her.
yeah, Heidi would definitely have all of that info.
Well,
Any questions?
any questions or entertain a motion if we want to go ahead and file the default? Is that the proper language?
I will make a motion that we go ahead and file the default and move forward to getting it cleaned up.
I'll second it.
Motion made, motion seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so unanimous that we want to go ahead and pursue it. Now, what's the next question? How quickly or?
Yes, what kind of time frame do you guys want to give them as a reasonable amount of time?
Well, it's the dead of winter, but spring is coming with March, so what are our options? 2, 3, 4 weeks?
Any of those? I mean,
Now, are you gonna tell them
We-
about it and then say that? you
so
got
they will
this much
get, they'll get a copy of our default documents that says, the court has entered an order, you did not answer this complaint, you now have a reasonable amount of time to clean it up. And then if and when we assess that it's been a reasonable amount of time, then we ask the court specifically. We don't usually go back to them and be like, hey, we gave you a reasonable amount of time. We usually just have whoever you guys utilize as your contractor take a copy of the order with them.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was originally filed in October, and then we had a hearing in October where they did show up. So they were well aware of it, and then, we had a default hearing where the judge granted us the motion to leave to amend the complaint, and then they were, served with the new complaint at the end of December, and so now it's been the 21 days from the default hearing. So this has been going on for months now already, and of course, the property has been in disarray for months and probably years, so
Couple of
prior,
years
yeah,
now.
prior
Couple
to
of
any of
years.
this, so, and of course, then
All right.
plenty of
Do we need a motion and a vote on that, or you just need a consensus kind of?
Yeah, there's a consensus.
I don't think it requires a vote.
I'm thinking 30 days is what the weather is.
Just to give the weather
Strange
time
and
to
generous.
clean up, but
I would-
Yeah.
they've
I
had
would
plenty of
believe
time,
that
so
to be
that should
fair.
be
Whenever we get the detailed
doable.
documents entered, we'll
And,
Okay.
put a task in for 30 days later.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's all I needed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're done. And then, so the commissioners had specifically brought this one to us, but if there are other complaints that you guys want to move forward in the same kind of fashion, just let us know. Sometimes they've gone through planning and zoning because people bring them to them as a code violation, and then they refer them to our office. Sometimes they come through the commissioner's office, and then, but either way. Yeah,
Okay.
this one I know was of particular concern to previous commissioners, so.
Well, let me ask before we close if there's any questions from the public.
Yes.
Yeah.
When Keisha did this
Mhm.
in 2019, was it in
I think so.
Where at? Remember?
the resolution?
Rewrote
Oh.
the blight
Blight
order.
resolution.
Oh, I see, okay, I thought you meant a different property.
No. When she set this up again,
Mhm.
there was all kinds of problems, cause it was, you could turn it into the clerk, the sheriff's office, planning and zoning, and there was
I
one.
think
of-
those were those.
Anyway, so this has been going on for quite a while on how to fix the system on who you turn it into, and I don't know how many meetings I've gone to. But the last one I went to, so when a complaint is filed, whoever goes out and investigates is supposed to take pictures. Now, maybe they did. I don't know if you've asked them or not. Hopefully they did. But it's getting back to the procedures have to be followed. It's set up that way. It's a good way. It just, everybody needs to understand that's what they need to do.
Yeah, so of course where we run into this problem is blight is so difficult to determine. Is it a criminal issue? Is it a zoning issue? Is it just a nuisance issue? So those three
Right.
those three issues all have different entities who they report to. So that's always difficult for not only our office to assess how we handle it, but also those specific agencies, because they all do actually play a role in it.
Right, and what came of it was the agent, whoever got the complaint, we're gonna look and see, does it involve my office, like planning and zoning, the sheriff's office? And if they didn't follow in their office, if they didn't follow in their office, and they didn't know who else, it was supposed to go directly to you. That's where this all came from, is Hubert filed the complaint on this, and it never went anyplace. It just sat in somebody's office. So they had a meeting right afterwards, not long after he filed the complaint, and they went through the procedure again. And I mean, you might read the minutes from the meetings on the procedure. I don't know if it was ever written down outside the minutes. And I understand what
Yeah.
you're saying about the blight,
Mm-hmm.
but doesn't a nuisance, I know it has a nuisance law too. And it covers a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, but see, so there can be, like this one specifically, I mean, there's, if there's so many vehicles that it turns into a wrecking yard, then
Right.
that's one issue. If they're living in a building that doesn't have a permit, that's a planning and zoning issue.
Right.
If they're using it for a use that's not specified in their zoning designation, that's also planning and zoning. If it's a blight that maybe has criminal penalties, I mean, that's a sheriff's office thing. And then like this one where we pursued both avenues, and even planning and zoning could have also had a hand in assessing planning and zoning issues. It does make it difficult for all of us to kind of interact at the same time on the same issues with the same facts. Because like I found in this case, I didn't know that there was an officer that had gone out to the property itself. They were doing their own investigation. We were pursuing a civil action. Planning and zoning was kind of tailing behind, waiting for us to kind of decide what we were going to do. And then we run into this problem where the property owner is then getting conflicting information.
Too many people not communicating and trying to do the same thing.
Right. And so, but, I mean, there's too many people communicating, but also you do almost need to get all of them involved still. And to have planning and zoning and the sheriff's department and the commissioners and the prosecuting attorney's office all together to discuss what we're gonna do on one matter, does take a lot of time and a lot of resources. For some specific cases that are quite egregious, I think that we've established that is where we wanna take it, but for our typical ones that come in because a neighbor complains that, hey, my neighbor's property is getting really bad, there isn't even really a clear person, and it honestly just depends on who the person takes it to, you know? Monica would get a lot of those complaints because people thought, hey, it's a planning and zoning issue, it's affecting my property, you know, things like that, or they thought there might be a zoning problem. And so then Monica would get them and assess whether or not she had any violations on her end, and then would share that with our office. And our office can certainly assess that and take it to whoever it is. But say it comes into the sheriff's office, and the sheriff's office is either sending it to Monica, who sends it to us, you know. So that necessary like chain of command, it makes it difficult with these types of cases specifically, just because of how they come about, for one, who they're reported to, and how we investigate them and pursue them. It's different in every aspect.
Your battery's dying.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'll stop talking. So yeah, I mean, it is a reoccurring issue on how we combat this. Sometimes it's just we gotta fight one at least to get the ball rolling, and then see where we can go from
I know
there.
under the nuisance law, I believe there's an avenue for the county getting their money back
Mhm.
under that law.
Mhm.
And, you know, I just forgot what I was gonna say. Under the junkyard ordinance, it actually says, I believe, after one car, you gotta get a junkyard permit if it's not registered.
What else is that for?
used to be something like that.
Yeah.
You have,
Well, they
And that's
did-
a different topic that I do wanna bring up with you guys at a separate point, is junkyard.
Another meeting.
Yeah, that was,
Yes.
that ordinance
Which
was
is,
just,
it's related but different,
it's
so we'll
always
save
a
it for another
fun
meeting.
topic.
It's the best.
that junkyard ordinance was just redone a few years ago.
It was, but I think that we had identified some changes that I had given to the prior commissioner, and I just don't know that it's.
The one that
gone
May
through.
you gave to him.
We might need to work on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's connected but different.
Well, thank you for your time
You bet.
and work on this, and keep us posted, and I'm gonna adjourn this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Twice in one day.
I know it.
Who's watching the dog?
Oh, he's upstairs in the office. He's being lazy
I am gonna
today.
get some dog bones.
She
I-
visited